Hi everybody, Dr. Qazi over here from Qazi Cosmetic Center in Newport Beach. I want to talk to you about this case because this is something that I had a lot of questions about the last couple of days. People were asking for darker skin tones. Some people were asking for African skin tone for their ice pick scars. So I wanted to show you guys that this is one of our results over here. I showed this before for some people, but I really love it because it kind of does a few different things, showcasing that we could do this without triggering pigmentation issues. And you can see significant improvement really in this case. Really, this is after a single session for this particular patient. And when he came in this day, we ended up doing some more TCA Cross and some Bellafill, but you can see already a lot of improvement. Now the work's not done. This is still sort of like in the process over here. I haven't seen him in a couple of years though. I know that budget was an issue for him, and he was really happy with where it's at. But of course, we could kind of optimize this a little bit more. But to me, really beautiful improvement at this point, considering how severe his scars were. Very, very severe scars. He also had somebody with other issues that potentially could delay wound healing, delay collagen response, which, things like he's a smoker, chronic long-standing smoker for years and years, smokes actually, quite a bit. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I believe more than a pack a day. So those things, I had quit and things like that before we did the treatment, but they really could have also prevented more collagen production there. But really, still, despite that, we got a beautiful result over here. So things that we did for this patient, we did excisions. So you can see some of those areas, especially for those deeper scars over there, that's where we excised the scars. We did punch excision in this case. And so I literally took out some of those deeper scars. You can see pretty clearly that they're really deep over there. And there's significant improvement there. And then we also basically did something called talar liberator subcision, which in his case was a little bit difficult because a lot of his scars, well, first of all, they were really all over his cheeks, but they're also pretty close to his nasolabial fold. So, I've talked to you guys about that before, that I don't really push into the nasolabial fold with something like a talar liberator. So I had to be really meticulous as I did that. And I used that as well as something called a Noker needle to break up that scar tissue. And then, as I said, I basically took out some of the scars, did TCA Cross as well, and then did an erbium laser, as well as dilute forms of radius in his case. So you can see really, really beautiful improvement over here. But it's certainly like I want to continue to hopefully get better and better results for him. So when he came in this day, we did some Bellafill for him, and then we did some TCA Cross. And like I said, I haven't seen him in the last couple of years, but I know he was really happy with everything even at that point. So I imagine it's probably a lot better here. So really, it's a beautiful progress report type of thing. Like, I think we're still kind of in the middle of this journey here. But I love the fact that you can see that skin quality is so much better than where it was before. So it's nice. Jay Dre saying thoughts on Phenol Cross. It's fine. I like TCA Cross because I have a pharmacy over here that gives me the concentration that I need. So it's really consistent, and that's one of the biggest problems when you do something like any acid. You want to make sure that's really the proper concentration and the right dose that you're putting in there. So I really just have a pharmacy that does TCA all day, and they provide it for me, and that works out really well for me. Let's see. Anita is saying deep chemical peel. So it depends on your skin type and what kind of scars you have, really. You were also asking about microneedling. Again, it depends. I have a video up there that was talking about that microneedling for scars, but like these kind of scars, not going to help too much at all. But for like mild type of things, it could potentially help with that. Julian saying, will the Accure laser benefit someone who has already been on Accutane twice already? Honestly, it's really good for that because I doubt you want to go through that process again. I've talked about it before that I've done myself Accutane 3 times. It worked. I'm not saying it didn't work, but like it was a toll on my body. There's no question about it. I think to this day, I still have dryness elsewhere on my body. It was after, especially my 3rd round, I think I had the most side effects, even though it was a low dose of it and was longer term. I had more hair loss at that point. And each time I was getting drier and drier. And now it's just like I have dryness in areas of my body that I remember when it was starting to happen when I was when I was younger on Accutane. So yeah, it would be nice just to localize just to the face, and that's what the Accure does, and just really just focus on normalizing the oil glands of the face. And so just similar to Accutane process of targeting the oil gland, but it doesn't overshoot it that way. So I think that works out really well for people. That's personally what I like to do, because it's like, for myself, when I went through that process, it was like, it took a toll on my body, it did. And I was used to wrestle and things like that. And it was like really tough when you're doing sports and competitive things and you're doing Accutane at the same time. Really tough. Let's see here. Anita's saying, I'm licensed in a lot of advanced facials and laser hair removal. I have to say your skin is great. Thank you, Anita. I could tell you, honestly, it's really nice to hear that. Let me tell you something that I talked about it before, that when I was younger and, I started having acne when I was like 12, 13 years old. It was really severe by the time I was like 15 years old. And 15 to really actually throughout almost most of my college years too, like 20, 21 years old. It was really severe, even despite the fact that at that point I already did 2 rounds of Accutane. Accutane would work really nicely for a little bit of time, and then it would come back again. And yeah, maybe it was like a little bit better, but it was still pretty problematic because I was like doing things in my life, and now I had to go and try to convince a dermatologist that I wanted to go back on Accutane, and it was such a hassle. They wanted me to go through so many different hoops and things like that. And I finally found someone that that was empathetic enough and understood what I was going through, and so he ultimately put me on it. Even the first time, it was wild to me actually that it was so delayed. In the first place, and they put me on like doxycycline for 3 months, and then they would have me on topicals and topicals and topicals, and go back on doxycycline back and forth, and I just kept it going. And it was really weird because I wasn't I didn't have depression or anything like that. Well, I should say I was maybe on the intake form potentially I was saying because I was depressed about the scars, but I wasn't actually like depressed. I was actually a relatively happy person otherwise. It's just and the acne was actually the thing that was bringing me down. So it's like acne was the cause of my sadness, and it was this cause of my loneliness at that age. So it's like it would have been nice. So I would have. So someone's asking what happened to my chin. What's going on with my chin? I'm not sure what you're asking. What you're referring to. That it's okay to ask me. I don't mind. But I'm just wondering. But anyways, so yeah, I was going through that whole process where it was like kind of curious that like going through all these hormones and everything like that, and my cystic acne was terrible, and going back and forth with a dermatologist to try to solve it over the course of so long. And then ultimately, like finally I found somebody who was willing to put me in Accutane, and it worked. And I was like, why was I not just put on this a while ago? And so it would have been nice, it would have been really, really nice if I was on that earlier, because it would have saved a lot of like heartache and a lot of depression from acne. I wasn't actually, just solving, it wasn't because of necessarily Accutane by itself. It was really because of just the acne. And when I was first doing it, I really felt like, when I was doing the Accutane, it really did dry me out a ton. And I was like 15, 16 years old when I first did my first round, and everybody in school, nobody was really doing Accutane at that time. Actually, nobody was doing isotretinoin. I didn't feel like, at least I didn't know. And my lips were so dry, so dry for me, like really, really dry. And it was like constant, like people were talking about that when I was in high school, things like that. And it was like really unfortunate, So it's like, it's nice to be able to like kind of come at this point now and like be there. I remember, my dad told me, because he actually had acne when he was younger, and he's just like, it's going to be fine one day, and you'll be fine, and like, it's going to be great. I'm like, what age did it clear up for you? And he's like, oh, like my 30s or something like that. I was like, I'm not going to, I felt like I wasn't even going to make it till the time I'm 30 years old because of how bad my scars were. It just felt like it was never going to get better. So I will say, honestly, it does get better, it does, but like it's tough in the meantime. So it's really nice to be able to have people like to say, like now patients say to me like regularly, and like a lot of patients who I've seen for years and years and years now, and people actually that I've known for a long time, they'll say, your skin looks great now, things like that. It's like, it's interesting because it's like, man, I wish I could have told my 15-year-old, 16-year-old self that like one day your skin's going to be like really great, and it's really cool to be able to achieve that. That's going to be really, really fun to be able to have that, and it is possible to be able to get that. That's really cool. It does take a long time. It does take, it's a slow process. I get that, but like it's possible. So let me see. Someone was saying, Julian is saying, are there any scenarios where fat grafting is better than Belifol? Well, definitely, I would say that I talk to patients about this when there's really a lot of volume loss. I mean, Belifol is great. I love Belifol. You guys know I talk a lot about Belifol. But if there's a lot of volume loss, there's just a lot of sunken areas, then you probably should consider fat grafting. But if you really don't have much fat in the first place, and you have a lot of patients who are really, really skinny, you're not going to be able to harvest much good fat there at all. So in those cases, really, you have to do something sort of injectables like Sculptra, Belifol, Radius, all good options there. But you got to do something for that volume there. Pretty little Virgo saying, I'm on my second month of doxycycline. Well, you could do it for a short period of time like that, but you usually want to make sure you're using topicals as well. Let's see here. Samira saying, I'm on Accutane, I have 0 side effects, no dryness. Awesome. Honestly, I didn't have that really, like the second time I want to say or so, it was like not that bad. Third time it was a little bit worse though for me, like really, really dry. So I did have that. Let's see here. I missed a few things here. So Han saying, I want to know his opinion about character limit. Won't type it. Oh, what's going on, Han? Okay. Han saying, I did CO2 laser today and the doctor prescribed me azelaic acid and 15% apply once a day to prevent hyperpigmentation. I mean, that's okay. That's okay. It's pretty light though, especially for Asian skin types though. So by itself, I'm not sure if it's going to be just enough, to be honest with you. Are you doing it afterwards? Or you do not pre-treat? So I do a lot with Asian skin types. And so I do a lot with making sure that it's not too harsh when we're doing a laser, but also we prep your skin and then do well afterwards. Tara saying salicylic acid for acne and pores, glycolic is for brightening and aging, lactic is gentle and hydrate. Right, yeah, pretty close. I mean, honestly, I think that glycolic is also could potentially be used for acne as well. So it's sort of like you could kind of catch a few things in the same category. Miriam, this is a patient who's Fitzpatrick 6 actually. Let's see here. Han is saying, I want to know. Oh, let's see here. Where was I at? D. Zitch is saying, I have gotten profractionals and seen some results. I would like to try TCA and punch excisions. Well, yeah, that's what I do a ton of. It really does work out really, really well. So I do a ton of excisions and TCA Cross. And I showed you guys yesterday the elliptical excision that we did, and this is more a punch excision in this case. I know I missed some things here. So someone's saying, pretty little Virgo saying, thank you so much. I'm tired of using filters. I feel like a fraud. That's hopefully the goal, really. I mean, that'll be ultimately awesome for people not to have to use filters, things like that. It'll be awesome. Honestly, I think we're really pretty much there already, where it's like really tough to be for like the next generation to be able to tell what was real skin, and the expectation is going to be really unrealistic for some people because of all the filters that are happening, and we're really there really close now. People aren't going to understand what was AI generated versus real, like whether dinosaurs were real, things like that, because people just make these things that are AI generated, and it'll look nobody's going to know what was real, what was around us anymore. It's just going to be really confusing what kind of images are going to be real. It's going to be a big mess really, like very soon. I think we're here right now, but it's just going to get worse and worse. Gabe is saying, I forgot to ask you, is that true? Is it not possible to cure scars 100%? That's true, Gabe. It's not possible to cure scars 100%. We just want to get your confidence better, make you feel better, and just look a lot better. I mean, the patient I had today, she has almost no scars left on part of her cheek. She has ice pick scars, and then she has tiny little bit scars in the central part of it that are a little bit deeper. And I always tell you guys, near the nasolabial fold, it does stretch a little bit more. So sometimes those scars take a lot longer to improve, and they can sometimes be a little bit deeper there. That's one aspect to kind of pay attention to. But she is pretty close, but she has certain kinds of scars that I think respond. Ultimately, she's done a few treatments now where her scars are pretty much gone on the right side of her cheek. It all depends on what kind of scars you have. Gabe, I would tell you, some of your scars potentially will be gone, but a lot of your scars will still be there under certain harsh lighting. And it's sort of like ebbs and flows depending on, like, if your skin is more oily, then you may see certain scars again more. And if you happen to go into like a dressing room with terrible overhead lighting or something like that, then you may see your scars like that. What is recommended for sharp, atrocious ice? I think you're saying sharp ice pick scars on the nose. So a TCA Cross works really well. So sharp atrophic scars, or you could do filler for those areas too. Any over-the-counter recommendations you'd recommend for ice pick scars? Nothing's really going to help with that, honestly. Nothing's really going to matter. Alice is saying, what was her race? Because race matters and how skin responds. Yeah, I've been saying that a lot, honestly. Ethnicity, I do think that it plays a big role in, especially the speed that I would see. I would tell you, honestly, the depth of her scars, I would have thought that this would have taken a lot longer, about a year and a half. She's 6 months out and part of her scars are gone. She's of Korean descent. I've noticed, several Korean patients, like I would say the vast majority that I would have, especially Korean women, they have a very robust collagen response. It's just interesting. It's something that I think somebody needs to take a look at. I'm putting it out there. So if there's any med students on here or residents or anything like that want to take a look and help me out with the study or something like that. Yeah, so she's a Korean patient. She's so far hasn't let me share her results. Maybe she'll let me do it. Actually, I should have asked her today if she'd be kind enough to let me do it. Kind of I could just show her that we could zoom in on it and it's not too obvious for her. But I think maybe she lets me do it because it's really pretty close to scarless for most of her scars. So it's really cool to see. So she's about 6 months out. She's done now 3 sessions of, we did TCA and erbium at this point for her, plus through the laser channel holes, I put some collagen stimulating products in for her. And I also, the first session I did some subcision as well. So really beautiful results, really nice. And like I've been telling you guys, I do think that there is a factor in there. But like for example, for this patient, he's somebody who had a lot of odds stacked against him. He had poor nutrition overall, and on top of it was a smoker, long-standing smoker, smoked more than a pack a day, and so it was like. I told him, I was like, I hope you can get that collagen response. And ultimately, I think it was kind of slow for him, but like, it was great still. Like we still got there. We still got a lot of improvement for him. I had to probably, it'll be nice to keep on chipping away and doing this and keep on getting better and better. But this is a patient of African descent that we've significantly improved for scars. Alice Waters saying, what about Middle Eastern collagen response? Have you had Middle Eastern we have so many Middle Eastern patients. I mean, that's typically like the normal way, which is typically about a year and a half to 2 years for Middle Eastern patients. And just for some curious reason, a lot of Korean patients, I have a lot of Korean patients actually, and especially Korean women, their collagen response is really robust. And it's interesting, I do say especially Korean women because Korean men, it's a little bit slower still. It is more like typical of like of the other ethnicities that I've encountered. Maybe a tiny little bit faster, but it's still it's still kind of going that way. So there's something it's something interesting that maybe there's some aspects of people that like it's the thickness of the scars as well, things like that. I'm not sure if it's really much of a dietary difference between genders and things like that, but something that someone should go through. I have a lot of data on it. I will go through about it at some point. Pretty Little Virgo saying, I don't have any pics of my face without makeup. I have ice picks and people call them holes. I tried microneedling at home as well. Thank you for the information. That's terrible. People call them holes. What obnoxious people, honestly. What terrible people. It's honestly like so interesting. Like I had a patient the other day that was like making all these inappropriate statements and stuff like that. And it's like, I don't understand where this stuff comes from so much. Like, and disparaging comments of like other people and even like other, just a lot of things, like just like really you could tell very classist, very elitist type of behavior. And it's just so wild and so unacceptable. And I'm just not going to be doing treatments on her because it's like, I just like this whole thing is just like, we just have to like, I'm not doing treatments on everybody, just so you guys know. And so it's like, I just don't have to because it's just like, some people are just not nice. I just don't need to treat you. Like, it's just like if you're doing things like that and I see you're being a bully to my staff or like the way you're talking to people is it's just inappropriate. It's like, I don't need to treat you. I really don't. And so just be better humans, be better people. I always want to, like, I think a lot of people are very good people, but I really don't want to treat like that, that percentage of human society that's just awful. I really don't. So it's like, I'm not interested in it. I don't want to advance you. You go find somebody that's, you think is going to be able to do the things for you. But, yeah, I mean, she's a lot of things, it was actually a patient felt uncomfortable with her in the waiting room. The staff was uncomfortable with her. I was uncomfortable with her. It's like, yeah, she was rude and condescending. And it's like, people make it seem like, oh, like that's just my humor. It's like, it's not funny. I don't know why people think that that's like some excuse that, oh, my humor is to put other people down. That's like, no, that's just you. That's like a you problem. That's, you are obnoxious. You're not, you're not somebody I need to treat or move forward with anymore. So why would I need to move forward with that? So, honestly, if you ever feel like that, in our waiting room, I will make sure that, I'm not treating them. I'll tell you that. Vincent, hey Vincent, how's it going? How are you doing? What did I do for my skin? I do what you do. So yeah, I do the same things. I gotta still do my laser and things like that, but I do same types of pigmentation creams that you use, everything else, and so I do the same process actually. What I do like what I'm doing on you guys, I do myself, just so you know. Let's see here. Where is this thing here? So I was asking if he has photos of his before and after. I mean, I have one thing on our page that showcases that. I never, first of all, I was pre-iPhone era in the 90s and stuff like that, so we never really had photos like that. But, I didn't really I talked about it before, I never really was comfortable enough taking photos of my skin like that. Never really took high quality photos. I'm actually kind of surprised. Maybe if I had the iPhone, I would probably do it in the same way that patients do, like constantly take it, and maybe it would have made things worse and caused more depression or anxiety for me, constantly looking at my skin every day with like a close up of the iPhone. But I never really did that. I have to at some point dig through like my family's like photo albums and try to see if there's something I took of there, because I know I get a lot of that question. Honestly, and I told you guys before, but like I deal with very severe scars. This is and I would say quantify this as severe scarring as well for this patient. You can see the fat destruction. You can see how deep the scars are, how the skin type that he has. Very, very difficult case. I thought I had severe scars. In my mind, it was like the worst scars ever because it was the worst in my friends group. It felt like it was the worst in high. There was a few kids that had worse scarring than me, but mostly I was kind of up there with really bad cystic acne and scars throughout high school. So it was to me, it was like pretty bad. And so it's like, wow, and then I realized like, you have a person like this suffering with scars. The patient I worked on today, I had so much work. I don't know if you're on tonight, by the way, but I did so much to break up his scar tissue. He had very, very thick scars, by far the worst scars I had this week. And I thought I had a very severe case earlier on Monday, but it was a worse actually on this case. So it's interesting because everybody sort of thinks that their scars are like the worst that anybody else even has. And I see such severe cases that it really puts things in perspective of people's scars. But obviously it just depends because, if you're of normal, perfect skin and then you got one pimple, it really upsets you then that you have that one pimple and you think that everybody's looking at it and things like that. And it just really sort of depresses you. So same sort of thing actually with scars. Actually, it's like you feel like you have great features. You have otherwise everything else is great. And then you see like the scar that you see in lighting and you're worried about it. And, I had a patient that was saying that when he went on a date with somebody, after the date, the person saw the lighting was a little bit harsh and she wasn't interested in him as much anymore. She could just tell. And then he ended up finding out from her friend that she just didn't like the look of him or something. That's really unfortunate. Think how cruel of that, like how cruel that is. It's like, I would say that there's a lot of different people that suffer with that. And honestly, I think he has scars, but there's a lot of people that are even worse, so it's like, just imagine like so it's not to diminish what you're going through, but it is like kind of interesting that how our perspective kind of is like, this is the worst possible thing in the world. But like, if you kind of sit back and look at it, it's like there are people that are suffering even more. And maybe we can kind of empathize with all that and we could kind of see like what people have gone through for the journey. Like now, this patient that I worked on today, this particular patient also that I'm showing over here, the stuff that they had to do to fix their scars, like maybe we should all appreciate that, the fact that people have done those things to improve their skin and everything like that. And it's like, we should kind of recognize that like, it's actually really nice that somebody went through this process and like they wanted to make themselves feel better, and it's like we should support that. We should feel better for them and really sympathetic for them, or empathetic at least. Just care for them. Especially as they're healing and going through it. Monta's saying, if I got filler done on my acne scars, but still some ice pick scars, can I get TCA Cross, or does it need to be removed in order to get a TCA Cross? No, you could do it you could do TCA Cross with filler at the same time. That's totally fine. Is filler appropriate for ice pick scars? Not going to help too much, actually. It's not going to help too much with ice pick scars. It'll help more with boxcar scars and rolling scars. GG's asking about Verteporfin. I've heard nothing from the FDA whatsoever. Nothing. Like nothing. just complete utter silence. Our emails have just had just unresponsiveness. It's like just actually what's interesting is this: we pay an enormous amount of tax. I pay an enormous amount of tax for this stuff. This is the federal government that we are paying taxes to. And it really should be that they're responsive to people that like us, citizens, and working through this and be better with this stuff. So it's really interesting, really interesting. I'm putting this out there. This is a public thing. I'm putting this out there that the FDA is just unresponsive to me. And it's wild. I don't know what. And the last thing they said was that there was one person that was for it, one person that was wishy-washy about it, but wasn't quite against it at that point. And it's like we just wanted like an update to see what other things, anything else we could probably work on. Can we get some other testimonials, anything? And it's silence. So that's where we're at. Like I'm waiting for an FDA waiver, and they haven't given it to me. So unfortunate. So that's where we're at. That's the nature of this. I used to do research a long time ago with somebody who used to do cancer research, and he used to say it takes years and years. But like the waiver should have been a lot easier to get. Like the waiver, I would have hoped that would have been a lot faster. Usually it would take 6 months. It's taken a lot longer than that. So I'm in the same, kind of frustrated holding pattern as the rest of everybody else on the Verteporfin team. For those who don't know, basically Verteporfin would have been great for someone like this patient because potentially we could have just removed, excised those scars and put Verteporfin in there, like medication that potentially could have caused it to be as scarless as possible. That would have been really nice. That would have been really amazing. Imagine if I could have showed that to you at this point. I would have loved to be able to show that. I would have been really excited to be able to show that. It would have been amazing for me to be able to showcase and give some hope to everybody that there is something that we could be able to do that and just get that as scarless as possible. And we're still waiting for that portion. It's tough to say really because the photos so far of people doing it, it's like it's not really consistent enough of lighting and things like that. So at some point it'd be nice to be able to do a proper real study for it and just showcase also what the possible risks of it are and what the benefits are, so to give people informed consent for it. Aberge is saying, I'm getting pimples on top of pimples on my nose. It's leaving deep scars and my pores are huge. Can you work on scars on the nose? Well, we first have to control your pimples and then we would do that actually. Valerie's saying, I have a question. I got laser from when I was 7 to remove a dark spot, but instead it created a darker spot on my face, and I've had it for 20 years. I tried all the creams and it won't go away. We may have to laser that again. I could take a look. I could take a look and see what's happening with that. Let's see here. I missed a few questions here. Gabe is saying, the Korean lady, you did erbium laser. Yes, I did erbium laser. Miriam is asking, can you do it without FDA approval? I'm not actually getting FDA approval. I'm actually asking for an FDA waiver. There's a difference actually. So the waiver is just allowing me to just investigate that. So I'm not actually trying to get approval, which would have been a much more difficult process. A waiver should have been much easier to be able to do. They are initially, and that's one of the last things that we've been saying, is it's unethical to do it. You can never go and do something. If they're saying, for example, that something is unethical to do, now as a physician, I'm not going to be able to now to do that now. It's just like you can't do that until I get their clearance that it's okay for me to do that. And then we could be able to then go back to the ethics board also and be able to say, here, the FDA has given us a waiver. They're allowing us to do this. And here's the ethics board that could be able to sign the approval that says, okay, it's safe, it's okay enough to be able to treat that there. So just to help you understand that, I'm not actually trying to get FDA approval for it. That's a very different process. The FDA waiver means that I'm at least trying to investigate this. But no, I'm not going to go about and do something that's unethical or that's can be viewed as unethical by a regulatory body. That just doesn't seem like a brilliant idea for my career. I mean, as much as I would love to help advance things, I'm not going to be doing it that way. But I mean, absolutely, as soon as we can get a waiver, I'll be more than happy and more than willing to push it and talk about this and go through this like every single day if we need to, and get people excited about it. But you need to be able to have a regulatory body be able to say that's okay. And they're kind of also, I've known so many people that someone right now was talking about how there's a clinic out here who's doing IV stem cells and stuff like that. And I mean, the FDA has actually put people in prison for things like this. And so it's, they've asked the FBI to get people in prison for these type of things. So it's like, it's really important to really skirt the line pretty clearly. And certainly like with licensing and all that, so I'm absolutely going to try to get you maximum scar results, and we could get that. We could try to achieve that. but I also don't push things. That's why I don't do things with injecting stem cells, other than like maybe your own fat cells. We get the stem cells from the fat cells, but exogenous stem cells, I don't do. I don't do that. And even exosomes, I don't inject exosomes, any of those things. I just don't do it. It's just like, what's the cancer risk? Nobody knows. I don't know. I don't know what the cancer risk is. Does anybody know? Nobody. They never tell you. I don't know what it is. So it's like, why would I risk that stuff when we could get beautiful results? And none of the people that push exosomes, none of the people that push stem cells, none of the people that push all those kind of like more fringe things, not saying it's wrong, not saying there's no, that's not going to work, but none of them ever show results like this, which is interesting because it's like here you're trying to justify like a higher cost for patients to be able to throw something on. And, the reps talk about this add-on type of thing that you could just keep on adding and stacking on stuff. I have these exosome reps all the time coming to me and all this stuff, and they drop these pamphlets and talk about like, oh, you'll have such a great ROI, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, how are you justifying that when you can never show results that are superior to this? Like, how do you showcase to me that this is something that's going to bring value into my practice or my patients? Why would I need to shove that? Why would I push that onto patients? Why would I do that? So do that first, and then tell me that this is something that we should be going to, and also get the FDA waivers that you should be doing. Show some clinical things too, but you never really seem to do that. So yeah, Alice Waters saying, have you had a patient from Africa, Afghan, Persian, Turkish descent? Yeah, so many. Collagen response. It's standard collagen response, really. It's usually a lot of patients of that ethnic background do have oily skin, so we do want to control their oil production before we do scar treatments, and it's a little bit confusing for people because they think that oil is good. So many people today that I was working with, so many people have this misunderstanding that having oil is good for aging. I've been talking about this a lot. It's really important to normalize your oil production because that's how you can get more of a collagen response, especially when we're doing treatments for scars. You really want to maximize your collagen response. So normalize your oil production. I don't want to dry it too much, but I want to normalize it. Topical exosomes, sure. I'm not sure if they're going to be helpful. I think it's kind of expensive, but I'm not sure if it is. Maria was saying, my locals seem to try me on exosomes with microneedling. Honestly, there's like you should look into it. There's an FDA letter against exosomes. Just look at it. It's like you're not even supposed to use it at all, really. Really. So it's like, lay people, like people outside of medicine, it's like different. You could do things that you could want to do, things like that. But like people that are in like the medical space, like physicians that are board certified, that are licensed, things like that, like we operate under different rules than like regular people. And we have to make sure that we're doing things in a certain standard. And we're following the regulatory guidelines. I know there's people out there that are doing things right next door to me. It's like, cool. Get results better than me too. It means and hopefully it was worth your license, but like it better be like that you're getting killer results. So far, I don't really think that's really happening. I've never seen anything like that. But I'm not sure if you really are making much sense if you're doing that kind of risk and you're not achieving a superior result from it. And you have a patient like this who's coming in, the patient today that came in today, and he did like 3 microneedling sessions. He had the worst scars I had this week, and I was doing 3 cases every single day this week. So it's like, it was very, very severe scars. It was a lot of work to break up the scar tissue. Very, very thick scars. And I mean, who thought that it was ethical to do microneedling on his thick scars? So I've talked about this before. Honestly, I want you guys to actually just look at this and really, really pay attention. Like if you're going to get one thing out of this, understand that there's better treatments options, not just for scars. I know I'm talking a lot about scars on this platform, these platforms, and things like that. But when it comes to like everything, when it comes to like fillers, Morpheus 8, all these things, that like kind of see like what are they really pushing? What are they really doing? Are they really just pushing like these packages? What are they actually even saying? Where do these numbers come from? What are they really saying? What's this experience that you're trying to talk about? Is it your reps experience like with these things that is making these claims? Because they make wild claims all the time. No offense to any reps that are on here, but like you do, you guys do. Like I see the thing. Honestly, I'll tell you one thing. I'll just say this. I know there's sometimes reps that come on here and things like that. I love a lot of you guys. I should say not love. Like some of you guys are fine, but like some of you guys are really wild. Really, there's like med spas that you guys have sold like millions of dollars worth of equipment that was like totally inappropriate for their client type, patient type, and you could have done it like really gradually and really appropriately for them and like help them build their practice like you promised to do it. But instead, you sold them like $1.5 million, $2 million worth of equipment. And I have sometimes these med spa directors, these physicians that are reaching reaching out to me to see if I want to buy their equipment and offload their equipment. And it's like, what's your demographic? What's your ethnicity that you're dealing with? And it's like darker skin types than these IPL machines that you sold them on, these bundle stuff. And then it's like, wow, what price point did you give? And you're charging these ridiculous prices to these physicians, and you're trying to trick them and tell them that they could get, interest-free loans for 6 months and all this stuff. And honestly, a lot of physicians aren't good business people. They're just not, And I know that's okay, fine. But it's sort of like this thing where if you have this mentality where if you don't do it, someone else is going to trick them. No, you could be that line. You don't have to trick people. You could actually just like help them grow. You yourself could grow. It could be really, really fun, and it'll be really nice to do that. And some reps, there's a couple reps that kind of do that way. But there's a lot of really shady guys in your industry. I'll tell you that. And that's why I don't even talk to most of you guys anymore. Really, I like at first when I was like first opening, I was like excited. I was talking to people. I was like, oh, it's so cool. They're coming by, blah blah blah. And then I started really realizing like it's just made up stuff sometimes. It's just stuff that like it's just coming out of people's mouth that like, where does this stuff come from? I had one of these reps, these radio frequency microneedling reps, that's insisting that his radio frequency microneedling device is superior to a CO2 laser for scars, and you don't even need a CO2 laser, blah 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 blah. And now, those guys are in a lot of trouble. I like the device for a lot of other things, but like they're in a lot of trouble. There's a lot of pushback against their device. I think they oversold it to way too many places. And it's like, it probably shouldn't be saying ridiculous things like that. Like people just like, I think physicians sort of like didn't understand because we were kind of in a bubble of like residency and like, oh, it's like evidence-based stuff and people are going to be honest and this is FDA regulated and stuff like that. And it turns out it's like, not really. It's like a lot of sketchy stuff is there and a lot of things are FDA cleared, but not FDA approved. And there's a big difference. I'll talk to you guys about that some other time, maybe next week, about the difference between FDA cleared versus FDA approval. It's important to know that. I mean, it's fine, but just be aware of that, like that difference. There's FDA clearance and FDA waivers. And it's like, what is that? What does that mean? Because when you get FDA approval for in actual treatments, that's very different. That means you have a lot of clinical studies, a lot of clinical evidence that showcases that this device works for that pathology. And that's really difficult for people to be able to prove and be able to do. FDA clearance simply means that it's safe to do that it's cleared for this, that it's safe enough. I should say safe enough because they will potentially still recall or do other things and things like that. But it's like, it's safe enough for it to be on the market and they can now say that like safely that, okay, we've investigated this product enough that this particular wavelength, this heat, this energy, all these things are okay. You're not going to be destroying a bunch of people if you put this on the American market. That's what it is. That's FDA clearance versus FDA approval. I hope you guys understand it because you'll see like this trick a lot of times where people say FDA approval and it's not FDA approved. And sometimes I want to catch people and sometimes there's a lot of confusion when people are discussing this and I want to really educate people and I want to try to educate everybody that when they say these things that like really we want to make sure that there's this clearance that like when you're dealing with med spas or physicians or whatever else you're going to, and it's like some people are saying that these terms, I've talked a lot before that like a lot of times it's like the sales reps, especially when I was starting on early, they were saying to me that do 3 reps, things like that, 3 sessions of something. Sometimes for certain things like pigmentation, I do believe that takes a while. It could take 6 months or so. That's a different thing than just throwing out a number like 3. And I told you guys before, one of the reps literally told me that these are like, it's because people like the number 3. People like Trinity. It's just like, sounds good. You like the number 3 instead of 4. Like, what does that even mean? What are you even saying right now? Where's the logic? Where's the studies about that? What is that? So it's kind of like, a little bit frustrating because it's like, you kind of like hear this over and over and over again. And then when you actually do want to actually kind of tell patients that it does take, a few sessions and like that, people then assume because there's all this like package heavy stuff everywhere that you're just trying to sell a package. But like some things can take a little bit of time. And it's like, this is the evidence for it. This is why it could take some time. This is the thing. I think that's a very different conversation than just like throwing a number out there like that. And I appreciate you guys all the time. It looks like there was a little bit of a concern that somebody was being a little bit rude, but it was pretty clear to me, at least, that that person was talking about the sales reps, saying that those people are snake oil salesmen, and I think they're 100% correct on some of those people, at least. Some of you guys, which ones I love, because I talk to you guys and things like that, but like, which guys I just don't even talk to. And honestly, like, it's fine, because like, I look at sometimes, I'll tell you, I'll tell you something. It's interesting. Some of you guys were so arrogant for years when I was starting out, things like that, and so arrogant and with me. And it's like, talking about your stock price, talking about like blah, blah, blah. And like how like one guy, I was going to say something else, but it's going to be a family program tonight. But one guy was talking to me like I could, like, when I was in a smaller office and things like that, and acting like he was trying to neg me. Like, I hate when people try to do that. And sometimes, honestly, this is what I was talking about when sometimes even some patients actually try to do this too. I'll tell you about that a little bit later, and why I sometimes don't want to treat them when they try to like manipulate me or like neg me or try to think that they're being like in a way that's going to try to like get me to do some favor for them like that. I find it really inappropriate, and I think that like it's really unfortunate that people kind of go down that route. But anyway, so he was trying to neg me into trying to convince me that like, oh, you can't really afford this, and trying to get me to like feel like, oh, I should like prove to him that I could afford this. And like, honestly, that stuff never works for me, like ever. Like, it's never, like, I'm very, very like, just like, and I look at, just because I don't necessarily respond directly to it, like, doesn't mean that like I don't see through it. And so it's like, I'm looking at it like, this is like, that's really unfortunate that this guy's so arrogant that he's gonna like, and he's so uncomfortable with this device that he felt that he needed to neg me into this device. And then like, he's talking overly confidently about his stock price. And the company was like probably $60 a stock. Actually, it was $120 something at that time. Then it went down to like $60. And now, it's like, I think it's like 90 cents, something like that, 80 cents. So kind of interesting. I've like some of the reps there, but like some of the guys in charge were pretty disrespectful. And so it's kind of like, don't be like that, don't like be that kind of person that does that kind of thing. And like the negging and the things like that are just really unfortunate to me. And just like, honestly, I feel like just people should just be just better humans, and just kind of work on doing things where we could kind of advance people, all of us, like we could all be that line to like just be better people and like kind of make everybody feel better. Because my goal really is like, and I've talked to you guys about this before, really it's like, I want people to feel like they're not lonely. I want people to feel like, there's a better chance for them to get back to the way they looked before. There's a chance for them to just continue to improve. It's really, really important for me that people get that. And I want the other person also to have that kind of hope also for people too. Really, that's like important to me. I want people to feel like there's going to be some improvement there in like the human race as well. Like there's like we're positive about that, and like they feel like they could kind of make that difference in things. So it's like if you are kind of doing things like to put people down and stuff like that, it's just like I really don't really have too much tolerance for that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I know there's a bunch of questions there. I appreciate all of you guys. But let me see, where did that one last question is though? I saw something else. Where did my thing go here? Where did that whole question go? What's the treatment for these pigs? Oh, okay, I'll finish up with that. I kind of was going through a lot of things here, so I went a little bit overboard. I will hit you with this though. But the treatment with this was basically, we did TCA Cross, we did Excision, we did talar liberator subcision, and we did some Radiesse for him, and then we... I know I'm missing something here because we also did an erbium laser as well for him. So I did a few different things actually to help soften up. He then the second time when he came in over here, then we ended up doing some more TCA Cross, some more laser there for him. So it worked out really well for him. So significant improvement already. I think he's going to continuously get better and better and better. Oh, the results are covering up my face. Well, that's okay. The results are really great, so I kind of wanted to showcase that. So how should I apply azelaic acid after CO2? Honestly, that's something you're gonna have to talk to your provider about, because I don't know how deep they went, what kind of aggression they went. And typically, I don't usually use azelaic acid for, like I said, for patients for pre-treatment or really just by itself afterwards too. So I'm a little bit surprised that they were using azelaic acid by that, honestly, but. Just so you guys know. All right, guys, appreciate you all. Thank you so much. I will see you again on Monday, actually. So I'll be back on Monday through Thursday next week. And I know I had a bunch of